especially I think your batch we ended like 2 months before, and it's been very nice to connect to the current batch students and the previous batch students. I'm sure some of you must be in YouTube live too. So I can't really know, who is watching this, but welcome to this session. It'll be half an hour session, and I'm not going to definitely take any technicals, teach you anything, revise anything. So we're just going to talk about, how to approach this exam and just have like some relaxed time, 30 minutes together to just cut down the stress levels, etc. Right. So that's the whole objective of this session. What I'm going to do is talk about corporate and other laws. I would have told you this in different classes to most of you, but having said that, maybe we'll just have one quick refresher, kind of a 30 minutes with us, where we'll try learn what exactly we need to do in exam. How do we need to just relax and appear in exam? So that's what we'll keep this session all about. I think you already had accounting session by Shetty sir, so you know the objective of this session. So how I'm going to keep this 30 minutes is just to give you some general points, technical points, exam oriented points, and there's nothing that you have to really write down. Just I think relax and listen for 30 minutes, and then I have a small story towards the end for you, so we'll end with that story. So what are some of the general points that we have to speak in corporate and other laws? So point number one, I know accounting exam got over today. I'm not even asking how it went. I know you would have done reasonably well, and it's over, right? The exam is over. Some of you would have done very good, some of you would have done really excellent, some of you would have done to the extent of your expectations. So I think it's over now. The exam is already done, so we have the next exam, which is corporate and other laws. So most important thing for you is to come out of that exam, first exam mode, and get yourself completely fixed to the next exam mode, right? So how quickly we switch from one examination to another examination, that quick time is what we get for making the most of the time that we have for the next exam. So now this paper, corporate and other laws, as you know, this paper comprises of two parts, right? When I'm talking about this, not the subject, even subject comprises of two parts, as you know, corporate laws and other laws. But I'm talking about question paper specifically. It comprises of MCQ questions, which is made up of 30 marks, and descriptive questions, which is made up of 70 marks. So when you receive your question paper, you will have to ensure that you have three sets of hand notes, or three sets of information with you. One is MCQ question paper. Second is the descriptive question paper, 70 marks, and then the OMR answer sheet, right? So if you don't get any of this, you have to immediately ask the examiner, right? Unlike, I think, some of the exams where all 100 marks are descriptive and you don't have MCQs, you would have just got one question paper and you will start writing the question paper. Whereas in case of company law, you will have the MCQ question papers separately, and there's an OMR sheet where you have to fill the MCQ answers, and you will have the descriptive question paper. So just to not to get panic, just to kind of saying, okay, everybody else is filling, I've not got something, just immediately check when you get on your hand that whether you've got all the question papers relevant for you from an exam perspective, right? And check that you've received both the question papers and OMR answer sheet as well. Now you know that as it is for accounts, this exam is also for 3 hours. We exactly like a movie time, right? So we have 3 hours and we have to make the best out of 3 hours. And one interesting thing is you're not allowed to leave before 3 hours is what the question paper says. I think I'm hoping that the examiners are strictly following this, right, in the invigilation hall. But I remember, as far as even I was writing, we were not allowed to leave, which means I think we have 3 hours and we have to put our head down and keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. Ensure that you're writing the complete paper. Don't hurrying up and finishing within 1.5 hours, not taking so long time that you don't get time to write 3 hours paper. So make a maximum balance out of it, optimize your time. Now that you have time, there's no point hurrying up on the initial questions and then finishing it in 2 hours, right? As well as you can take some good time to think about it and respond to the answers in an appropriate manner. So give the time that it deserves, is what I'm trying to tell you. So this is about your question papers, right? How your question paper looks like and what you should keep generally the points in mind. And of course, you have choices. Sometimes what we do is in a company law question, we we tend to not to take calculators. I've seen this is quite common, right? Saying, okay, it's a theory paper, I don't need calculator. You never know. Sometimes for the computation of, let's say, for the computation of some of the numbers, for example, there is dividend chapter, right? In dividend, we'll have to compute the average dividend. If you're declaring a dividend out of accumulated profits, then, you'll have to compute those three formulas, right? And those three formulas require some calculations, right? Similarly, when you are, let's say, doing section 139 or something related to financial statements, and there is a question which is related to, let's say, related to reopening of the financial statements, where they want you to quantify the fraud, etc., they may give some question. So we have to be conscious that we are taking all our stationery which we otherwise take it for other papers as well. So I've seen some of the students doing this mistake, that it's a theory paper, let me only carry one black pen or a blue pen and avoid rest of the stationery that I need to carry. So ensure that you carry the same stationery for all the exams that you carry for company law as well. And my suggestion is, have a calculator. If it is useful, it is useful. Otherwise, there's nothing that we're going to lose, right? It just helps us to reduce the stress in the exam hall if you have to use it. So that's one point. Another, it's a simple point, but most of you know me, that I keep telling you that from an exam preparation perspective, be very clear about your entire stationery bag, right? Whatever you want to carry has to be with you all the time. So what I used to do is have some small stapler also, because sometimes, right, I'm not very confident that whether, what I have tied it would work or not. So I always used to carry a small stationer, the stapler with me, so that in case if I have to use it, I have it handy, right? So you kind of know one exam is over now. You know what is very important in the exam hall. Ensure all of that you keep it ready from the exam preparation perspective. So that's what I think I would want to clear in the general points. Now let's get slightly technical now, right? So we'll just get a little more technical about what we need to do in examination from a subject perspective, right? So company law per se, as you know, has 148 sections in your syllabus, 10 chapters in IPCC syllabus. So just remember the chapter bifurcation very well. I think this is something we discussed in the class as well, that you need to know which chapter to which chapter of which sections are comprised from, within the chapters. Like, as you know, section 1 and 2 is preliminary, 3 to 22 is about incorporation, right? 23 to 42 is about prospectus, right? 43 to 72 is about share capital, 73 to 76 is deposits, right? 77 to 87 is charges, section 88 to section 122 is management and administration, 123 to 127 is dividend declaration and payment of dividend, section 128 to section 138 is about your accounts of the books of accounts of the companies, and 139 to 148, most important chapter, audit and auditors. So just ensure that, as you read up, you have your 4 5 pages of the summary handy with you, so that you're not forgetting on your basic response to the question. Like, you need to know that, okay, my storyline is to start with the section if I know the section, or to start with the chapter if I know the chapter, or to start with as per the provisions of Companies Act 2013. So you need to be clear about your storyline. So the confidence gets more, like if we have our storyline right, our introductory line correct. So otherwise what happens is, the minute you see a question, now this is a question on section 42, but I'm not able to remember that private placement is in section 42. Immediately I feel, oh my God, how do I start? Then we need to know that, okay, it's fine if I don't remember section 42, but I know that this falls under prospectus and private placement chapter. So at least I'm writing, okay, this is a chapter in which the provisions are contained. So remember your chapter bifurcation well. This is something which you have learned on the day one of company law class. Do remember to revise rule names once, right? Because you know that all the chapters have got specified rules in company law, and you need to kind of know how to write that rule as well. We know this, for example, companies management and administration rules. It has to be companies within bracket management and administration close bracket rules 2014, right? So just remember the rules once, so that you can at least ensure that you are writing a respective rule read with that particular section. So these are the things which just increases your confidence that, okay, even if I don't have to remember rule 4, rule 5, rule 6, but I remember what is the rule name all about for that particular chapter. Now, here in the 20 minutes that we have, right, I really don't want to talk about what is important, what is not important. I think it's not a time to speak about it. Whatever you have read is important, as simple as that, right? Whatever you have prepared will come for examination. So there is no point right now in the next 2 days calling up people, asking friends, what are you reading? Which questions are you revising? So just go with your gut feeling, right? So whatever your gut says that, okay, I've read, if you have read 80%, that 80% is going to come for exam. If you have read 100%, that 100% is going to come for exam. So just keep that in mind and do not right now do a lot of re-engineering on reading new things. So revise rules once, remember chapter bifurcation once. Some of you are confident on the sections, right? Some of the important sections that we would have told in each chapter, we've highlighted that, okay, these are some of the sections which are good to remember because the chances of the case study oriented questions are more. In those cases, please also make an attempt to remember those sections. I am not pressurizing you, forcing you, creating a stress that now you sit and by heart section numbers, not at all required. If it is in your memory, just try to refresh your memory so that it easily comes in examination for you. Right? And having said that, another important thing is now that you have 2 days, right? So today you finished accounts exam, so day after is your law exam. I know it's each one of you have a timetable. I'm not getting into your timetable, how to read, what to read, etc. But what I'm asking you to do is do not ignore other laws as well, right? So you know that there is company law and there is other laws in your syllabus. Other laws has got Contract Act, Negotiable Instrument Act, interpretation of statutes, right? So you have these components of another laws within your syllabus. Give an appropriate time for that as well. It's so when you're reading up, the MCQs and case laws, etc. So don't just kind of keep complete preparation for company law and then get stressed in the morning on other laws. Try to bifurcate. Maybe sometime, like you want to read company law, sometimes you want to read other laws, but that balance, whatever is your timetable, ensure that you're not ignoring allied laws as well, because that's also a substantial proportion of your syllabus, right? Another important message that I have to tell you is don't get scared about amendments. I know this is something which easily comes to law students. I think there is an amendment which I don't know. I think RTP had so many amendments, I did not get a time to read about it. It's okay. I mean, the amendments are only change in the law. Please understand, it doesn't change the law by itself, right? So that's something you'll have to keep it in mind. Yes, there is a small change in the law, but it doesn't change the law by itself. Predominantly what you have read will remain the same. What would have changed? Maybe 30 days would have become 15 days, 15 days would have become 45 days. Some timeline would have changed, maybe some terminology would have changed. But as far as I have seen the changes in the company law, it does not drastically change any section. Your basic foundation of the section remains the same. So hence there is no point of you getting scared, or getting worried, okay, or getting little stress that, oh, I've not read amendment ಈಗ RTP ತಗೊಂಡು everything I want to revise overnight. Don't do it. I think whatever is covered in the class, whatever has been told to you, if I've already covered what is changed in the law, that is an amendment, right? You don't have to really at this point of time make an effort to see what is the old act and what is a new act. Just know what is important, go by your timetable, see what has been given to you in the class as changes, and then just believe on those changes and move on. So don't keep this spot in your mind that, okay, I've not read this, now I don't know how it's going to happen, right? So that's one important point. So remember, amendments is only change in the law, it doesn't change the law completely, right? So that's something you have to keep it in mind. So most important, another technical point that you have to keep in mind is also, which I have not covered in the slide but which is in my mind, is case laws, right? Remember to have few case laws crafted in your mind. For example, if there is a question on separate legal entity, I will answer question with Solomon versus Solomon case law, right? If there is a question on let's say there's a question on corporate wheel, I'll answer with this particular case law. So just keep some of the case laws handy for you, and don't over stress to remember the case laws beyond what you've already learned. Whatever you have learned, My point is just take like some fresh 15-20 minutes, write down section chapters once, write down important sections which is in your memory to refresh again, right? Ensure that you remember to read rules once so that it sits in your mind that okay, I have to quote a rule as well. Remember to read the case laws which is already covered in the class so that you know this is a case law that I need to interlink. So just refresh your overall subject once. The same thing is applicable for other laws as well. In Contract Act, Negotiable Instrument Act, wherever there are case laws that has been covered, just refresh once before you appear in the examination. Interpretation of statutes, as you know, I think you know it is again it's again a beautiful chapter, right? So this is another important point. Now that I I personally used to like interpretation of statutes. Now when there is an exam, it is not about what you like, what you don't like matters. What matters is whether I'm having an appropriate coverage. Like unlike I think what we used to do whenever we were preparing for examination, okay, I really like meetings chapter, so 3 days I will do meetings along with eatings. Correct, you know this, right? And I'll happily read the same thing for all 3 days. But when there is an exam preparation, you will have to equally balance. Go with your timetable, but do not stick to your likes and dislikes of the particular chapter in this 2 days, right? Give an appropriate time that it deserves and ensure you have a well covered revision. Now, one other point that I'll again reinforce in this slide is I did mention to you most of the times that whenever you start a storyline, introductory part of your answer, try always start with a section only if you know it, or start with a chapter. Like you know how I think how I would have told you, right? For example, there's a question on charges. How do I start? Like the provisions with respect to registration of charges is provided in chapter 6 of Companies Act 2013, having sections from section 77 to section 87. If you remember registration section, excellent. As per section 77, registration of charges, the below are the provisions with respect to registration. If I don't remember, very good, I will still go and say, as per the provisions of this chapter, these are the requirements, right? But now again, remember to not to start generic words. Okay, this is a big costly mistake that you can make if you don't remember in examination. Don't say law says, company law tells, company law sings, company law hugs. It doesn't do anything. It's not a human, right? So very important. Do not personalize law. Don't bring he, she, it to the part of the law. You know how the legal language has to be appropriately used in the law. Remember to use the same long language consciously, right? Consciously remember. Another important thing that you do is in examination, let's say I wrote, okay, one question came. I wrote, as per provisions of Companies Act 2013. Now it sits in my mind. For all the 15 questions, my starting line is same. As per provisions, as per provisions, as per provisions. I told you again, break that flow, right? You have to start a question little differently. Right? Don't have the same start to every question. The mind tends to do that, and same story to every question, same section to every question, right? So try to balance that when you are reading the questions. Now let's get a little more exam oriented. What I told you now is more about how do you approach the law as a paper as a whole. Before that, can you all see the screen, right? Just want to confirm that you are able to hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
you can see the screen too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent, amazing. So let's now get a little bit exam oriented, right? Most important, yeah. Repeat the questions. Rather read the questions carefully. If you don't understand, repeat that reading again, right? You have to be very careful while reading the question. I think we had some instances in the class. Sometimes the question may be talking about applicability, but we may end up writing the whole provisions. Like for example, I think I had mentioned this. There is a question on, okay, the the company has 20 people. It actually it's a the cooperative society has 10 members. It wanted to deposit the pf, etc., etc. What are the provisions with respect to pf? Let's say this is a question. What we will do, immediately jump and write all the answers about provisions for pf without even analyzing and realizing that okay, whether a cooperative society with 10 members, is the pf act applicable or not. Now, the expectation of an examiner here is to analyze from an applicability perspective, not from the perspective of what you need to do. right? If it is applicable. So you'll have to be very clear about the questions, read the questions very carefully, and don't be panic. Okay, very important thing for students. I'll read one question as it is. I know that I've covered 8 chapters. Let's say I've not covered dividend chapter, or maybe I've not covered negotiable instrument type. Whatever the reason, time did not permit, I did not cover. What I'll do, the minute I see the negotiable instrument question, I get panicked. Okay, I was like, God, okay, now this question is impossible. I cannot answer because I've not read. Maybe sometimes, you never know, it's the same question you would have read maybe somewhere in the RTP, or maybe same question the sir would have solved in the class, but they've just given in the different words, right? It is, I mean, that's why I'm writing here that it is a old wine in new bottle, that you're just not trying to observe. You just saw the new bottle, you decided, okay, it's not my cup of wine, I'm not going to take this. Sometimes just reading it again reduces your panicness. So do not start your mind to say, okay, I've not read section, as it is, I've not understood section 89. Okay, it was very difficult to me, that I don't know what is that beneficial interest, etc. I've not understood. It's sitting in your mind, but you may not really know that the question is so simple that it's only asking you about 30 days of time that you will get to declare your beneficial interest, which means you all remember the declaration has to happen within 30 days. What you may not know is a concept of beneficial interest, etc., etc. But because you're so panicked that you've not even read that question properly, and you've not, though you know the answer of 30 days, you're not able to answer. So ensure that you don't be panic at all. Somewhere you would have heard, somewhere you would have read, okay, something would have for sure, somewhere, like, you would have, some friend would have told you something, maybe I would have just repeated something, sir would have repeated something. It's all in the subconscious mind. If you're calm and not panic, the subconscious mind will open up, and automatically in the flow you will remember some answer which was written on, the virtual board on the right side. You're like, okay, I remember, okay, ma'am wrote this answer there. Now it is automatically flashing to me, right? So that'll happen. And get your mind answer ready. Another important thing, when you're reading a question, don't read with the fear. ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಇದು ಬರುತ್ತೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ, ನಾನು ಓದಿರೋದೇ ಬಂದಿದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ, whether I'm able to do this or not. Why do you want to even get that in the mindset, especially when you're reading a law question which is case law oriented? Be extremely super active when you're reading itself. Don't read, think and write. What I'm saying is, think while you are reading itself. So instead of bifurcating reading, thinking, writing time, merge reading and thinking. That is one component of your activity, and writing is a second component of your activity. As you read the question, your mind should start thinking about, okay, which section I should interlink, which one I should analyze. Okay, have common sense in mind. Okay, so this is a case law, this is a subsection, this is a section, this is a form number. Okay, this is what I'll have to paint the picture in the answer sheet, right? So get your picture right while you're reading the question. The minute you give a full stop to your reading the question, immediately your mind should respond, these are the 6 interlinks in the law that I should answer. Keep that in mind so that you are saving thinking time, right? Additional thinking time. You're acting spontaneously while reading itself. And do not assume that you will not know the answer before reading the question. That's what I meant to say, that don't be panic. Never assume. Maybe you know the answer. Why don't you just read complete question? It could be so simple that, once you read a question, you realize the answer is just there in the third line of the question itself, right? And don't use wrong section numbers. I think this is something, we've always been speaking about, but never use wrong section numbers. Be mindful of choice of words. Better you frame, the better you climb the chances of higher marks, right? The framing skills are very important. Presentation, writing skills. Avoid generic English. Choose law specific words. Very important that you choose a right set of words for your answer, right? This is just a continuation, right? Sometimes when I don't know the answer, what I'll do, I'll keep looking at the exam hall. I think, oh my God, I would have just had Google next to me. I would have just, just typed the question and written. Don't watch others in exam hall. You never know, right? How others are, not how I am. We all are unique by ourselves. There's no point. Somebody might be writing. You must be thinking, oh, this person is writing so much. Somebody in between raises a hand. Okay, I need additional sheet. So what? You never know, that person must be writing 2 words in a page, right? How do we know? We don't know. Why are we getting panicked by looking at others, right? Just go by your your guts, go by your preparation, go by your flow of thoughts, right? Don't see what others are doing, what others are writing, what others are asking. None of my business. You are like an island, right? You are there, but you are isolated from the entire exam hall. That's the way you will have to make your mindset to be. Don't think about where this question is asked from. This is another mistake students do. ಈ question ಅದರಲ್ಲಿತ್ತು RTP ಅಲ್ಲಿ. It was here, it was there. No, just keep writing. Just keep writing. Most important, remember you have 180 minutes for 100 marks, right? So we know this formula. I think I've cracked it for you a couple of times. The time for 6 marks question and the time for 3 mark question cannot be the same. Don't divide your watch by the number of questions. Okay, compulsory question has got 3 parts. Therefore, I have 5 questions. Out of 5 questions, each question I'll have to answer in 30 minutes, for example. That's how you made up your mindset. And 30 minutes, which means I've got 3 questions, 10 minutes for each. So don't do that simple bifurcation. Go by a mental math. If it is 180 minutes for 100 marks, which means for 3 marks question, I'll have to take slightly lesser time because the expectation is comparatively lesser. For a 6 marks question, I'll have to take slightly more time. So remember to have a watch on the time. And this is something I would have told you many times. Start the metro at the station. Pick up the speed at the time of writing the first question itself. Don't be lethargically slowly write 2 pages and then 2 3 questions and then you get scared and you pick up. So have a eye on the watch, have a time properly allocated. I don't know if it helps you to carry a good numerical like digital watch, like not the analog watch. I think you can do it. I used to do it so that I have mentally my time is framed. Okay, if I'm starting a question now, I have got 6 minutes, so I know that okay, 6 minutes is like at this point of time it ends. So it's up to you, whatever you're comfortable, but keep an eye on the time and then start from the beginning, the speed at which you want to start. Like you can't pick the speed at the last minute, right? And good knowledge, good expression leads to good presentation. I think before I end, I think we have 4 minutes to end our sessions, but I'll repeat and summarize the most important points from a law perspective. Write section numbers, rule, case laws only if you know it. If you do not know it, don't get panic, right? You know the law. It's okay. No harm if you're not able to quote a section number, rule number, case law. So don't worry about it, right? Uh, there is no great relationship between length and marks. Remember, okay, 4 marks. Last question, I wrote 2 pages. This question, I want to write 2 pages too, but my mind is allowing me to only write half a page because the answer is only half a page. Then why do you unnecessarily drag and push yourself to write 2 pages for the other question also? So remember, there's no relationship between a length and marks. Yes, there has to be a decent length answer, but doesn't mean that one 4 mark question which took you 2 pages to write is not equally applicable for another 4 marks question which takes you maybe one page to write. So don't go by that. Go by the content. Go by the the depth of a content, not by the quantity of what you write. Most importantly, if it is a case study oriented question, facts, provision, analysis, and conclusion are most important. You know the pattern of the question. See whether the question is direct question, indirect question, or the question is a case study oriented question. Differentiate your answers basis the type of the question. If the question is define, please define. If the question is explain, please explain. Right? If the question is discuss, please discuss. If the question is case study oriented question, please bring a conclusion to the question. Right? Very important. Maybe some questions are does not require conclusion, some questions needs conclusion. Ensure you're good with it. And don't go with your handwriting too much good bad. I think it's all done. Whatever is it is, that is, I mean, we can't now change the handwriting in 2 days, but bring a best presentation. I keep telling you, charts, right? Underlining keywords. I'm repeating, I hope you're all hearing very carefully that underlining keywords. Sometimes maybe if a word is so important that write it in capital letters with an inverted commas or double underline. Don't beautify. Don't take black pen, blue pen to do it. Whatever the pen you are writing, just keep underlining. Keep underline, and which doesn't mean underline the whole page. This is also important, right? A key is key. You're only underlining important key provisions, key timelines, key case studies, key interlinks. You know what is important for an examiner to know, that you know the subject. Bring that to the attention of the examiner. Use charts, use the different pictorial ways of presenting things, tables, graphs, right? As much as possible, ensure that your presentation is proper. Remember to do this. I told you, who are chartered accountants? The one who maximizes the use of the charts, right, will become chartered accountants. Explain simple and nice format, right? And try to start with high confidence question. Wherever you're very confident, start with that question. So this is something which I just wanted to repeat it for you. I know I am on time. We'll have to discuss for some of the questions you have generically also. Maybe I'll give you 1 minute time to see if you have any reactions, and then I'll end with one nice small story for you. I know it's an exam time. You must be thinking, why story? But it's a beautiful story. I'm sure you will enjoy it. But any reactions? I don't know how we finished 30 minutes. This is exactly how exam also gets over. Okay, awesome. We have some reactions on the Zoom. Excellent. Okay, small story for you. Okay, it's a beautiful story. The story goes like this. Are you all listening?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. Okay, now what's the story? Story is about a CA student, okay, someone like you. A CA student was walking in a forest, okay, because he's very tired and he just wanted to refresh. So, you know, you know how I think we are doing R2R. Student also thought I'll also just get some refreshment, kept on walking in the forest, and he catch hold of a bird. Very beautiful bird. It was so pretty that okay, the student thought, okay, I'll keep this bird with me. He just kind of, it's so beautiful. I want to keep it as a pet. So now the minute he catch hold of a bird, for his surprise, the bird started talking. Okay? And the bird said, you're so sweet. You wanted to keep me at home, but can you please let me go? And I'll give you best three advices of life, which will help you every time, and most importantly during your exams, because now you're stressed with your exam. So the CA students thought, okay, why not? Let me hear this bird. So he said, okay, very good. Now tell me, what are the three pieces of advice that you have to me? Bird said, I'll tell you if you let me go. Once you leave me, I'll give you first advice. Once I sit on the branch of the tree, I'll give you second advice. And once I start flying from there at the high, I'll give you third advice. The student said, okay, perfect. So he left the bird. And the bird, while it was just flying to sit on the branch, gave a nice first advice. Okay, now I'll tell you what is the advice, but you can kind of relate with all of these terms that which goes in your mind right now, right? I wasted time, I didn't read, I would have done this, that, blah, blue, right? There's so many things which goes on the mind for us. And it's the best advice the bird gave for a CA student, and this is an advice. What is the advice? Do not torture, torment, and burden yourself with excessive regret for your past mistakes. You didn't get time, so what? It's okay. Whatever you've done the best. Okay. And whatever you could do, you've given your best. Just believe in yourself. Do not regret when it's time not to regret. Okay, the CA student said, okay, it's an amazing advice. Okay, then it went and sat on the branch. So CA student asked, okay, tell me what is the second advice? I really like the first advice. Very good. What's the second advice? The bird said, look at some of these things. So the bird said, my advice to you is don't go by anything which is not related to common sense, which means the bird said, I'll give you an advice that do not believe anything that goes against common sense unless you have first hand proof. Now where is this coming from? Sometimes, right, we think miracles happens automatically. Okay, and some of us have the superstitious beliefs. I had, okay, so oh if I wore like a pink dress and exam went well, all six examinations I'll wear pink dress. If I happen to don't get pink, I am done. Before even starting the exam, I'm like, okay, something will go wrong. These are all like, the stereotype thinking of a mind. It's all against common sense. The bird said, don't believe anything which is against your common sense. And all of you, I think, have to get this right. Somebody said same question was there somewhere. How does it matter? It's over. The exam, you're in an exam hall. Where that question was doesn't matter to me, right? After I finish exam, where that question was there, going and checking a right answer is against common sense now. The CA students was very happy. He said, okay, amazing. You gave me really good advices. Now tell me what is the third piece of advice. The bird said, you are a fool. Okay, you just let me go. Actually, what you don't know is I had so many tips. Okay, so I actually had a ready-made question paper for you. You think if you would have kept me, because of the miracles that I carry, I could have told you what are all important for exam. I had very precious knowledge with me, but you were a fool. You just believed me and you let me go. The boy felt so bad. He said, how can it happen? I was such a fool. How can I let it go? He got horrified. And then he asked a bird, that is so bad of you. I really didn't know that you will do all of this for me. Now that it's happened, can you give me the third advice? The bird said, this is exactly what I told you in the previous two advices, that I told you don't regret, but it just took you less than a minute to again get back to a regret situation. Okay. I told you don't believe anything which is against common sense. You know that no birds can give you exam question paper, right? It is just stupidity. How can you just start believing on the common sense and then start regretting? Okay. I mean, common sense is not so common, right? So the bird said, how did you again believe with me? The boy said, you are actually right, but I still want to hear the third advice. And the bird gave a very nice third advice. The bird said, if you're not applying what you already know, there is no point being so intent on gaining what you don't know. Such an appropriate thing for your exam. If you don't believe in what you've already read, there is no point you being aspiring to write in exam what you've not read. Just believe in what you know, right? Prove what you know, write what you know, spend the 3 hours in the exam hall to the extent that you know, everything will go well, right? And if exam is tough for you, it's tough for everybody. If exam is easy for you, it might be easy for everybody. But what is for everybody is not a matter of concern to me. I have to see how I make the best on in the exam that I have to write. I think, isn't it beautiful, three advices?
Yes, ma'am. It's very nice, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I never told you a story, but a good story I thought relate to a CA student. So never regret the past. Believe in your common sense. It is always right. If you believe in the common sense, it is so common that it will always go right. And just believe that what you know, you have to make the best use of it. There's no point now regretting about what we don't know. Just give the best shot of what you know, and you will do very well. As usual, I think I have to overshoot the time. Every time, like the way I do, I overshoot at 6 minutes. I'm sorry about it, but I hope you got your relaxation and you're refreshed, and I'm very hopeful that you will do very, very, very well in examination. I have a very high confidence for you. Good luck, best wishes. Don't look back. You have a very great future ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.
Do very well. We'll catch up again. You will come with a good box of sweets, and then I'll be just waiting to grab all of it. Best wishes to all of
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
Write well,
Thank you.
do
Thank you,
well.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, bye, bye.